Hello, my name is Tyler Mead, and I'm a master's student in piano performance at Syracuse University. I had been asked to give a brief little presentation and lecture about establishing great practice techniques, specifically in the realm of piano, but as well as kind of relating it to other skills that you might want to learn as well. If you're like me, your first impression to the title of this presentation, Establishing Great Practice Techniques, might be something along the lines of, I don't want to be told how to practice. I just want to enjoy playing piano without following a step-by-step process. I know these feelings, I have these feelings regularly, and I'm currently pursuing my master's degree in piano performance. The goal in this short presentation is to provide you with a perspective on practicing that will guide you to a habit of continuous progress, a perspective that can be applied to not only practicing piano. The first part of establishing great practice techniques is not to identify what to do, it is to identify why we should do them. Learning the piano, the what, will only be successful if you can identify why you want to learn the piano. There is a scene in The Office where Roy at his wedding sings and plays at the piano. He learned piano, the what, because, the why, he wanted to share a special moment with his wife at his wedding. If you are in piano class, you probably want to learn piano, but why? It doesn't have to be a life-changing why either. Maybe you want to be able to learn your favorite song on piano. Maybe you want to write your own music at the piano. Maybe you're going into music as a career and want the extra skill set on piano. Whatever the reason is, identify it, hold on to it, and use it as motivation in your daily practice. Consider this poetic text by Wong Ken titled Song of Joy. Pleasure is the state of being brought about by what you learn. Learning is the process of entering into the experience of this kind of pleasure. No pleasure, no learning, no pleasure. You need to enjoy what you do in order to make progress and enjoy the process of learning a new skill. After you identify why you are learning piano, you can use that motivation as a way to start setting goals. If you want to learn that song, when do you want to learn it by? If you want to perform a piece of music, when is the performance? Set long-term, I want to perform this song at the Holiday Hollow, and specific short-term goals. I want to be able to play the right hand part by the end of the week without stopping. By setting specific goals, you can keep yourself honest in the process and allow for smaller victories to add up to a larger success, rather than being discouraged because you haven't learned the song yet or can't play the piece quite right yet. These principles don't have to take very long either, as short as a couple minutes of thinking and processing through your thoughts, but are very important to think about as you find the motivation to start learning something new. So we identify our why and choose some specific and attainable long and short-term goals. Now we have a better foundation to start the process of learning and practicing a new piece of music or a new skill. With some of the ideas that I bring up comes the realization that some long-term goals will be longer than others, which require a longer process, and thus a greater deal of patience with the process is required. The first thought I would like to make revolves around the famous saying that practice makes perfect. Now, a professor I had a lesson with at Westchester University changed this statement and thus my thought process with this cliche. She said, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. It takes so much more effort to relearn a skill or a piece of music correctly if the first time you practice it is done without purpose and without precision and accuracy. Now, I will admit, as will many prominent young musicians, that this is a trap that I will fall into as well. We all want to learn the song or piece of music as fast as we can because that means we can enjoy the act of performing it, and that is, in my opinion, one of the best feelings you can experience. But we end up delaying the performance of the music if we practice mindlessly and without purpose. This is to say, you have to be diligent, critical, and supportive of yourself and your goals in order to succeed. A main part of practicing a piece of music is repetition. Repetition is important. In a kinesthetic activity such as music, the only way to make progress is by precisely repeating yourself. No actor in the world reads the script once and has it perfect. Even if all the words are correct, there still needs to be meaning to the words. Music is the same way. You can learn all the notes correctly, but you don't effectively create music until there is direction and purpose to the notes. So again, repetition in practice is important, but meaningless repetition is counterproductive. Using the actor analogy again, a successful actor is going to say the same line a countless number of times, but changing the inflection, the speed, the accented placement of the text. When playing piano, or when learning a new kinesthetic skill, changing one or more variables will lead to a more effective and not as tedious or strenuous practice session. For example, I'm learning this Beethoven sonata, and the second movement is fast, very energetic, and a very precise piece. It goes like this. I can take the first few measures and play them several ways. The first, normal, like I just did to establish a baseline. The second, same way but slower because it allows more time to process the notes and the rhythms and everything that you need to concentrate on to create an effective performance. The third, I'm going to play slow and legato, which legato means smooth and connected. So instead of articulated like this, I'm going to play it. The fourth, I'm going to play slow and staccato, but exaggerating how short the staccato is. The fifth, I'm going to go back to normal. This structure helps to connect your brain to your body and keep your performance in your practice a conscious thought, instead of going on autopilot after repeating the same 4 measures 10 times in a row, the same way every time. And be creative with it. Come up with your own ways to change it up. An interesting perspective to practice that I've heard several professionals in the music field have, and a point I'm sort of mixed on, is that the term practice should be replaced with rehearsal. If you're in an ensemble such as choir or band or orchestra, you go to rehearsal. Why do we not call it choir practice or band practice or orchestra practice? It's because we are all together making music together while we have someone to lead us and rehearse parts that need to be worked on. The purpose of calling individual practice a rehearsal is so that we start to become our own teachers in guiding our practice with structure while being critically honest with ourselves and interpreting our own criticism not as a reason why we can't, but as a step in which we can find motivation so that we can. A problem with organizing your thoughts in this way, however, relates to the purpose most people learn a new skill like piano for, as a recreational hobby and for fun, not as a serious profession. Rehearsals are so formal that through organizing your thoughts and ideas as if you were in a rehearsal, you might lose the motivation to practice. Not everything that we do needs to be as serious as structuring your practice down to a detailed plan, minute by minute. And if you are at this point in your own practice and are finding your motivation wavering, revisit your short and long-term goals in order to give yourself perspective. After you give yourself perspective, keep going. I don't know how much you know about cooking, but when cooking a large piece of meat, such as like a rib roast or a pork shoulder, there will be a point in the cooking process when the internal temperature seems to stay still or increase only slightly. This moment is critical to look out for because as soon as the temperature starts to rise, it will increase at a very quick rate. This principle strangely relates to practice. There will inevitably be a point where you will be frustrated because you might seem like you aren't getting any better. This is the point you should find the most exciting, because as soon as you begin making progress, you will find that there is an incredible amount of progress being made in such a short amount of time. This leads to a huge discussion of failure and how to keep motivated through failure. John Steinbeck writes in his novel, The Winter of Our Discontent, that failure is a state of mind, and that once you get out, you'll find success is a state of mind too. I can't think of a better quote to base this discussion on. A point that I find incredibly important is to keep everything in perspective. Your goals, your motivation, your progress, your skill is all yours. If you enjoy what you do, the time you spend practicing and processing will feel much more worth it. Everyone will have their own goals. It is up to you to keep your goals and your progress into perspective. You are capable of succeeding, but it takes patience and a perspective of looking at the progress over perfection to see that the only wrong thing to do is to give up when it gets too hard. An exercise I try to do every day is to give myself affirmations that will help guide a positive day, such as I will and I am statements. I often tell myself, I have failed, but I am not a failure. I will find joy in the progress that I make. I am capable of being successful and learning a new skill. As an exercise, try saying some of these statements, then later on, reflect on your progress and how much more you enjoyed the process. The last point I want to make in regards to establishing great practice techniques, especially when learning a musical instrument like piano, is to practice performing. Performing doesn't have to be a public event. You can perform for yourself, your cat, your family, your friends, or an old lady at a nursing home. Music is meant to be performed, and there is something so unique to sharing your progress with someone else through music. It will show that you are willing to say, here I am good enough. Establishing great practice techniques is more of a mental challenge than it is a physical one. There are steps that, if you take them, will guide you to a new perspective on practicing a new skill and will lead to a more enjoyable and rewarding experience. If you have any further questions or comments about my own practice techniques and strategies, or would just like to learn more, please reach out to me through my email, tcmusic.tyler@gmail.com.